With over 30 salons across the West Midlands, the Francesco Group is one of the UK's largest award-winning hairdressing companies. Founded back in the 60s by Francesco Dellicompagni, the family-owned salon group now employs over 500 people, and it's built a reputation on providing the highest quality hairdressing services. It's won many top awards along the way, including the Midlands Hairdresser of the Year in the prestigious British Hairdressing Awards. Well, now they're launching an academy to help train the hairdressers of the future. And joining me to tell me more is Ben Dellicompagni, the Group MD, and I'm guessing perhaps a relation of Francesco here. Not just a coincidence, is it?
It's not just a coincidence. I'm his son.
So it's a real family business.
It's a family affair indeed.
And because how was it like? So growing up, were you kind of playing hairdressers instead of doctors and nurses with, schoolgirl friends' dolls?
Not at all. My father and my uncle set the business up some 48 years ago.
And was that in Birmingham? In
Stafford.
In Stafford, yes.
And the salon group from there, and we now have salons all over, from Wolverhampton, Cannock, Walsall, Aldridge, in Birmingham itself.
It's interesting. I remember a hairdresser once saying that he could tell with regular clients by the texture of their hair, often before they knew themselves, if they were either pregnant or if they were ill. And he could sort of detect a change. And he said he'd have to be very careful about how he'd mention it to the client and just say, "Oh, are you?" Just try and drop subtle hints. And sometimes they'd say, "Yes, how do you know?"
Now, Charlie, I don't want to mislead your listeners. I have never trained to be a hairdresser.
Ah, okay.
I know an awful lot about it, as you can imagine. And I have a fantastic team. But you're right on that comment. The hair type does change, both with great news like pregnancy. Unfortunately, illness can change hair type as well. And, it's one of the things that we work hard at is training our next generation of hairdressers to understand that. And it's not just understanding the hair, but how do you communicate to the customer? How do you sit down and have that? You have to have the conversation, and how it's handled is often the most important thing, and it's also a very sensitive thing.
It's very intimate, isn't it, that relationship?
One of my franchisees at Derby, Ian, and Kerry at Church Lane, they do a lot of wig work for ladies who, for whatever reason, have lost their hair, alopecia, or whether it's cancer treatments. And for them, that isn't about the work they're doing, that's about the feedback they get from the client, the reaction they get from the client in that situation. And again, it's because it's so personal, and we know our clients for so long, that through the good times and sometimes through the not so good times. And that's the power of the hairdresser, to help them through all of those situations. It
is, and that trust. And you're right, and friends of mine who've gone through that process, often they say that's the worst side effect. All the other sickness and ulcers and everything else, but it's the day that you look at yourself without your hair and you don't feel like you anymore. So if you can have a wig cut that can just bring you that glimpse of yourself back again, other people don't notice as well, so you feel yourself again.
It's the self-esteem, it's self-confidence, and, it's one of the hardest things to go through. And, if the hairdresser can help, and if we can help give that client back in a difficult time great confidence to tackle something that is life-changing.
Yes.
Well, it's only a little thing, but it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So how early on did you realise that, despite your sort of passion for the business and doing the shampooing as just a teenager, sweeping all the... Actually, was it sweeping the hair off the floor?
I swept the floor, I made coffees, I passed... And these were the days when the perms were being done, the setting. I still remember passing up to my father. He's probably laughing right now at this, because it doesn't happen anymore in salons.
But the rollers and the bit of paper,
that's
wasn't
right.
it?
Yeah.
And the smell of the chemicals back then.
Yeah.
Oh,
you remember it
about
well.
That. Yeah, just from sitting, with my mum having hers done or something. Well, I did have a poodle perm once. You should at least once in your life look like a poodle, if only to know never again.
They're not done a lot anymore in the salons.
There's a reason.
It's moved
why.
on. It's moved on.
Now, we're going to hear more from Ben in a few moments about something very exciting that's happening right here in the Midlands, which will involve training a whole new generation of hairdressers. And particularly interesting, if you have teenagers in the family that have expressed an interest in hairdressing and might want to go on to do this. So we'll tell you more about this opening in the city centre of Birmingham in the next few days. So more from Ben in a moment. And a real success story of a family business started in the Midlands and then just growing and growing. Now over 500 people employed. and hundreds more new hairdressers will be trained in the future. So we were saying earlier on, of course, family business set up in the 60s in Stafford by your dad, Francesco, and now, 48 years later, you're employing 500 people in salons all around the Midlands. And also you've really focused on training new generations of hairdressers. And this is something at the moment we're hearing about, really a struggling sort of generation of people looking for opportunities for apprenticeships and people who are not going to go on to university. At 16, what do they do? And you've got a massive project. This is talking a large investment here, starting next week. So tell me a bit about the new academy.
We launched our new Francesco Group Academy on Pinfold Street. That is set up to deliver learning for 50 full-time students. So when the learners are choosing now where they go when they finish school.
For next year,
for September 2013. And one of their options is to go into further full-time education. And of course, we believe that not everyone is suited to academia. There's a vocational route. There's fantastic career to be had when you sign up with a quality training provider. And that's what we're offering at Birmingham, is 50 places for full-time students. We've just signed up our first 50. And they're having a fantastic time. And please, if you want to pop into the academy, go in, because you can become a client of the academy.
And how old are these students, by the way?
They are between the ages of 16 and 23.
Yeah, so young, eager, enthusiastic.
Absolutely. And we've been doing this because the lifeblood of hairdressing is training. If you're not getting the next generation right, well, then that customer's been loyal to us for 10 years. They're not going to get an improvement in their service. They're not going to get an improvement in hairdressing. So we're always investing in training. And the relationship between the salons and education, it's totally linked together.
And I think there has been a stigma, and the bad side of the industry of hairdressing has been that perhaps some local small salons will just take advantage of cheap slave labour from a teenager and not actually give them a structured training programme. And that's something as a parent you'd worry about. So you're partnered up with an academic institution as well, aren't you?
We've been training now almost for as long as Francesco Group's been around, and we have a 15-year relationship with Stafford College. Now, we also have relationships with other colleges in the area, Walsall, Derby, Wolverhampton. We have in total 15 nationwide college partnerships where we're helping colleges ensure that the learner is getting a training experience that makes them employable. And that's our end goal. At the end of the day, our true test of what we do on the education is, has that learner had a training that makes them employable in quality commercial salons? And, we're so proud that learners that come directly to us, well, we know 95% of them, 90 to 95% of them, progress into employment, into hairdressing, into a quality career.
And so what level is this when we're talking, say, the NVQs? What are we looking at?
When you enter into training, whether it be a full-time qualification or you get a job in a salon, your training is around an NVQ qualification. And there's two levels, NVQ2, which takes 18 months to attain. Within our own industry, NVQ2 is the accepted standard. To Francesco Group, it is not. Francesco Group NVQ3, which is a further 18 months training, is the minimum amount of training that a hairdresser should have. At the end of that 3 years, they can cut competently, they can colour competently, and they can provide a service and experience which is right for a professional level of hairdressing. And if the learner isn't getting that 3 years training, then I would question where they're going for their training, if that makes sense.
It does show a real commitment, doesn't it, from the young person as well, saying, actually, I'm going to spend these 3 years because
Absolutely.
I really do care about this. And we're talking about the idea of a lot of younger people going on to higher education and being saddled with huge amounts of debt in tuition fees. What are the fees involved in this, if young people are coming to do these NVQs in hairdressing with you?
If you're placed into the workplace, you're paid a training wage. So there is no cost for the training itself. The employer agrees to enter into an apprenticeship contract. So there's an 18-month contract for your MVQ2, and then the employer would enter into a further 18-month contract. Through that programme, the learner is paid. Within Francesco Group, as they achieve more in their learning, they get pay rises, staggered all the way through. And of course, at the end of it, you've got a fantastic trade. You can go to the cities, you can go get a job on a cruise ship. More importantly, you can have a successful career in Francesco Group. And I have people now that earn good money. And another one of the stigmas around our industry is poor wages. Well, I'd like to blow that out of the water. If you work for a quality employer, you can earn fantastic money. I've got senior stylists who will earn in excess of £35,000 per annum at the age of 27, 28.
Which is a lot more than most graduates are going to be getting.
I don't know the facts.
Or most of us, full stop. It is really interesting. When I was thinking about this earlier, it's only a few years ago that most of us realised that people like plumbers or electricians were earning a fortune. And
Absolutely.
boy, should we have learned to do that instead of going to college.
Vocational skills, I think, are coming to their fore now, and whether it be hairdressing or, as you've mentioned, plumbing.
And
vocational skills are great. You have a trade for life.
And because you can't outsource it to another country, you can't have a computer take it over. People are always going to need their hair cut. So it is a really good idea to go into it as an industry.
I've had people that we've trained travel the world and come back to us. And they've travelled the world on the basis of their Francesco group trained, and they can get a job in salons around the world on the back of that. We're very, very proud of the skills that we embed in our youngsters. But going back to your original comment, yes, as a youngster, you must research carefully who you go and train with and make sure that it's a reputable organisation.
And for parents or grandparents, perhaps, of people listening who know of someone in the family that would be interested, is there a way they can find out more? Is there a website, perhaps, to find more information?
Firstly, when you're choosing where you're going in learning, the government does inspect learning establishments. And we get inspected by Ofsted, the same as any adult learning organisation. So you can look at their Ofsted report. Francesco Group actually has an outstanding for training, as you might imagine.
Oh, of course.
So that's the first thing if you want an independent reference to where you're thinking of going. Secondly, if you want to look at Francesco Group, please visit our website, www.francescogroup.co.uk/MVQ. And we will give you information and more leads to where you can further your interest to become a hairdresser.
And your academy, the fourth academy for your company, opens next week in what is the lower ground floor of the old Habitat building in Pinfold Street, so a real city centre place for people to go along to. And you must, how many years have you been involved with the training side of the business now?
Oh, since I came back into the family business, we've been, the training's integral to our franchises, our salons. And so we've been involved in work. We were one of the original work-based learning companies. Going back before this, it was YTS. And for those that can remember, before my time, YOPS.
Oh, yes, of course, remember that.
So we've been involved all the way through the changes that have come through different governments.
But every year when you're involved, when you, perhaps next week at the Academy, do you still pick up on that excitement from the next generation and that buzz of nervousness and creativity? And you can spot some rising stars, can't you?
It's amazing. Our artistic director, Michelle Thompson, who won Afro-Caribbean Stylist of the Year, she came from one of our college partnerships. And when you see learners, the age of 16, progress and become, on the artistic side, progress that way, that we've got learners who now have their own salons under Francesco Group because they have that opportunity. It's what motivates you, it's what excites you, it's what puts a huge smile on your face when you've got a learner that comes back to you and after 3 years they've got a job and they're achieving what they set out to do in life.
See, spoken like proud Uncle Ben there. Well, Ben Dellicompagni, great to talk to you. Thank you for joining us from the Francesco Group. Good luck with the Academy, launching it next week with a whole new generation of hairdressers.
Thank you very much for having me on the programme.
Best of luck and thank you.